Hello, welcome to This Week in Politics. Well, we've been going, I don't know, I haven't been counting the shows, but probably a month or so. And I really enjoy doing these. Um, I enjoy making the Chronicle. I enjoy studying the politics of it. I told you I'm a politics junkie, so I get my fix every week. This week's been a big week. Um, as I said in the write-up part of it, the issues I want to talk about this week is another week, another missile strike from North Korea. This one is a little bit different, and we're going to take a look at that. Also, Hurricane Harvey, and the Senate has got a heavy schedule coming up in the not too distant future. And I want to take a look at some key things that are going to be happening there. And then lastly, I want to talk about the special election going on down in Alabama this month for the seat vacated by Jeff Sessions when he joined the Trump administration. And I want to take a look at that. And then we'll wrap up by taking a look at some articles that we're going to try to, that's going to become a part of our show, I think. I'm going to call it Current Events. And what we'll do is we'll just take a couple of articles from the paper, just so we can chronicle them, when they happened, and exactly how it happened. And one of the reasons that I want to do this is it has become extremely clear to me now that I'm at a certain age. We're not going to talk about that, but revisionist, 99 times out of 100, the authors who are writing revisionist history tend to be liberals. So as a conservative, I want to make sure that these things are kept as close to the facts as we can. So the best way that I can do that is to digitally record them and, to the best of my ability, report on them and tell what happened, who, what, when, where, why, and how. So let's get started. Let's take the first one I want to take a look at is the missile from North Korea. Now, just a little bit of history. Most administrations in my lifetime have spent their time pacifying North Korea. The biggest offender was Clinton. He actually gave them the technology for nuclear warheads, and they are now a nuclear country. They also have been and have gotten ICBMs. They're still working on miniaturizing parts of it, and they're on the verge of being able to hit the United States West Coast. Now, having said that, what they're doing is, first off, they're playing games, shooting these missiles and letting them land in the ocean just to prove to us that they can do it and that they have the technology, and they've succeeded. And we usually don't respond. We usually ignore when he shoots these missiles off. But this one was different, and here's why. It crossed into Japanese airspace. And that wasn't the first time. It's the third time that's happened. But this one was unusual in that it flew over an island and just missed it. It did go into the ocean. They reported that accurately. But it just missed land. Now, here's what was not reported. For those of you that don't know anything about history, after World War II and the Korean conflict, World War II is when we made these agreements with Japan, but the Korean conflict is when we made them with a lot of other countries over there, and that was, do not militarize yourself. we, the United States, will protect you. And that has worked. The 38th parallel has been the dividing line. And we have told everybody in the world, if anybody comes in and messes with these countries, we are going to defend them, just like they attacked our land. And those countries are, and not limited to, Taiwan, the Philippines, Japan, South Korea, Guam. These are all places where the United States, if they are attacked, we're going to go defend. We're going to go to war. If somebody shot a missile, an ICBM, over the Hawaiian Islands and it just missed land, would we consider that an act of war? I think so. That came so close to land. Japan said they tracked it. As soon as they shot off, they tracked it. They said they were so concerned that they issued the warning to all of their people to take cover because it was coming. They thought it was going to hit the city. It missed, but just barely. So the question is, was that an act of war? In my opinion, it is. And understandably, the people in Japan, the leadership in Japan, are now scrambling to say, we can't rely on the United States. We need to go take care of this ourselves. Which goes against that. And if that happens, that'll all be a domino effect over there, and we will lose our influence. We will be a paper tiger. So the question then becomes, how do we respond and how do we deal with this? Well, the first thing we can do is what every other administration has done. Ignore it. Don't go away, right? Yeah, that doesn't work too well. Now, I have heard a couple of other suggestions that I like, but I think they need to be stair-stepped. I think the first thing we need to do is to quadruple the number of Patriot missile, anti-missile sites that we have. We have them in South Korea, but we need to plant them all up and down the Japanese islands. We need to place them in Guam, in Taiwan, and just load them down with anti-missiles. The first thing we need to do is to work on what Ronald Reagan called Star Wars. And it would look like this. It would be a satellite that had the capabilities to shoot a laser and hit the missile. Now, here's the benefits. The Patriot missile, first off, is about 50% accurate, but assuming you shoot enough missiles at it, you'll hit it. But the problem with that is you can only use those Patriot missiles once the ICBM hits its altitude. By that time, it's away from North Korea, and the fallout could hit anywhere. So it'll work, but the fallout could be pretty bad. By using a laser and a sensoring thing from a satellite placed above North Korea, the second it sensed a missile being shot, we could shoot a laser down and destroy the missile before it even left the pad, so that any nuclear thing that was on there would be in North Korea, and the explosion that would happen would be on North Korea. That's the benefit. Do we have the technology? Absolutely. Did we have it when Reagan was in office? Probably not. But the concept is still good. It is still valid. It is still an outstanding idea. I would do that first. Well, I would simultaneously get that up and running, put in the anti-missile sites. Now, somewhere down the road, when everybody else catches up to our technology, because those two things right there will buy us an unknown amount of time, and our, all of our friends will be safe. Everything that will return the status quo, uh, that the world is used to for an indefinite amount of time. But at some point, when their technology catches up, like they make a stealth missile or a way to protect, so that our sensors can't pick it up, when that happens, then the other suggestion would be to give the nuclear missiles to our friends. Now, that sounds radical, but China has already done this. They did this in Vietnam. They did it in Pakistan. No, not Vietnam. They did it in Pakistan. They are a nuclear country, and the technology and um, supplies they needed, they got from China. Ditto North Korea. The technology was given to them for friendly purposes by Bill Clinton, but the material and the financing and the technology know-how came from China. So China's already done this. We're behind the 8 ball here. So it might not be a bad idea to deploy some of our nukes in those countries and give them full autonomy on when to use them. The problem with that is this. If those countries are overtaken by Muslim, and Pakistan is a Muslim country, but so far they have been level-headed and willing to listen to reason. That is changing in that country as we speak. Right now they have a man running for president who is anti-American and wants to distance themselves from us, which I'm fine with. I don't really have any affinity for Pakistanis anyway. But the problem is they do have nuclear power, and that's an issue. That is not to say doing these things are proactive things that we can do and should do, in my humble opinion. But that is not to say that we should not stop talking. The reason that talking never works is because it's usually Democrats who are talking instead of taking action. That's what they do. And the problem with that is everybody knows that the Democrats are not going to take any offensive action. And the Democrats stop building their military and stop investing in military. They think they can negotiate. Well, you can't. Look at the Iran deal that the Obama administration negotiated. They violated that thing from the first day, and nobody's calling them on them. Nobody's doing anything. So, lousy deal. So now it's the reason that this missile was fired, and this is not a new thing. Whenever the United States and South Korea do joint military games out in the ocean, North Korea does this because they claim they're threatened. You would think that their people would figure out, you know what, it's been 60 years and we've done this for 60 years and we've never done anything. But when dictators are in power, there has to be a them, an us and a them. And to the North Korean dictator, the United States is the them. So whenever we do this, he fires a missile or shoots a gun or has a military parade, something to show his people that he's large and in charge. To us, he's a bug. But that's why it was fired. Now, one of the things the Democrats, when they negotiate, is they always put an undue amount of trust in what China says or does. China always comes around and says, yes, we will. We will help the United States. We will do this. We will do that. Like the last time around, it was, we'll stop taking coal from North Korea. And they did. But Korea shipped it to a neighboring country, and then China bought it from that neighboring country. So it's, again, China is no help. And you cannot rely on China for anything. They lie just because they can. They are not going to help us. They were the one that gave and encouraged North Korea to get the nuclear weapons. They are not going to go in there and talk against them. They may try to settle it down, calm the situation. That they might do, but they're not going to do anything to help us. Now, Japan feels like their sovereignty has been violated. And I agree. In the example that I used, when I said, what if he shoots a missile towards Honolulu, Hawaii, and it misses and falls harmlessly into the ocean, but it goes over the island and it violates our airspace and lands in our water space. Is that an act of war? I'd say yes. And I would go to war over that. So if we have a defense treaty with Japan that says we will defend them, then why aren't we at war? I'm not encouraging war. I'm saying if we want to be a reliable partner to our partners all around the world, then they need to know that when we make a promise, we keep a promise. And we promised to protect these countries. Now, it's true. I mean, if you want to split hairs, it's true. Nobody got hurt. No damage was done. But if that happened to the Hawaiian Islands, we would be at war right now. And I think something needs to be done. We need to take proactive action, and we need to hurt Kim Jong-un. I don't think you can sanction these people. He doesn't give a crud about his people. You can sanction the bigwigs, but he's got China in his back pocket, so China will just get access to the money and replace it. It doesn't mean anything. This guy is itching for a war with the United States. I think we ought to take it to him. That doesn't have to be a covert war. An overt war. It could be covert. You know, we could send, like we went into a Muslim country and got Osama bin Laden, who the whole world was hiding from us. I think we could probably get into North Korea and take out Kim Jong-un. I'm pretty damn sure. But nothing's been done. And so here we are. The United States needs to man up and take care of our obligations to Japan. Okay, the second issue I wanted to talk about this week was Hurricane Harvey. Hurricane Harvey blew into land the end of last week, and devastating. There has been, I don't remember the last number, 40 some or 50 some inches of water. There's flooding all around. The people have died. The devastation is unbelievable. It is officially the worst hurricane on record, and that includes Katrina. Now, for those of you that don't remember, when Katrina came aboard, there was a Republican in the office. W was in office, and FEMA was excoriated, which the blame came to Bush. He made some political miscues. One of the things he was blamed for was driving his plane over the flood site and not getting down and talking to the people, or he seemed aloof. So he lost a lot of support. He lost a lot of, and just got so much bad press. And this time, the officially worst hurricane in history comes. We have an inexperienced politician in the office, a Republican, a conservative Republican, and the press would like nothing better than to throw stones at this guy. But but he gets an A+, not from me, but from everybody down there. They even talked after it left Texas, it swung up into Louisiana, and Louisiana has a Democratic governor. The press called the Democratic governor because he's a Democrat. They'd love to excoriate him. And the Democratic governor had nothing but nice things to say about Trump and his administration. He says they've been on the phone, they're communicating with us, they've made everything available that we need. They've already declared it a disaster. So, and FEMA's here, and they're working with our people, doing great. The governor in Texas says the same thing. The mayors in these cities say the same thing. Trump gets an A+. They talk to the governor and the lieutenant governor down in Texas, trying to find something that they can complain about. Trump and his administration gets an A+. FEMA in Texas and Louisiana had their people in place before the storm hit, had command center set up, had their people working with the local officials to make sure that everything went as smoothly as possible before, during, and after the storm, and it has worked out beautifully. The money has been appropriated already for the storm, and promises for as much money as they need to get rebuilt. It's been an outstanding demonstration. And the interesting thing to me was this: an inexperienced politician comes in, handles the worst natural disaster the United States has seen, and they can't find one thing he did wrong. You know, the press is going crazy, but this is the truth. This is how it's going. Trump's doing a great job, and the press is not giving him the kudos that he needs. I think he's doing a great job. And I'll state again, I am not totally on board with Trump. I don't like some of the things he does. I don't like his ineffectuality on social programs. I'm a conservative Republican, and part of my issues, half of my issues, are social issues, and he's not willing to tackle those. That I have a problem with. He threw us a bone with the military transgender thing, but that was just a bone. That was a non-controversial, non-committal thing, but whatever. But I wanted to concentrate on his administration and the great job they're doing handling Hurricane Harvey. Now, when they went down to Texas and they were interviewing people down there, everybody had nothing but nice things to say about Trump. Now, granted, it's a Republican state, but these people just lost everything. I mean, there are sharks on the streets down there. The water is that deep. But they had nothing but love and praise for Trump, his administration, for FEMA, the way things are handled. And here's the interesting thing. A lot of times we talk about the difference between how Republicans see the world and Democrats see the world. It's completely different. When Katrina hit Louisiana, okay, a totally Democrat area down there, okay. I don't remember the mayor's name over there. Total Democrat. He did nothing but run his mouth about he needed, and he eventually got indicted, by the way, for embezzlement. But they would go on the streets and they would interview people, and all they would do is complain. The government needs to do more. The government needs to come in here and do this and fix this and do that. And fast forward, go to Hurricane Harvey. They go down there, they're interviewing the people, hoping to hear the same thing. And you know what they found? People driving from all over, bringing boats, going in and helping people, rescuing people and pets. These are all Republicans. Now, the press tried to make it sound bad, calling them rednecks with boats and big trucks. But you know what? Not one of them said the government needs to come in here and do more. Not one. I didn't see one interview where they got somebody to say the government's doing a lousy job and they need to come in here and help us and fix this. And No, what I heard the politicians saying down in Texas was, we are resilient, we are strong, we will rebuild this in 10 years. You won't recognize this place. It'll be awesome. You see the difference? That is the difference that Republicans and Democrats see every problem. We as conservative Republicans want less government. We want the government out of our lives. We want smaller government. When things happen, we want us as people to come together to fix the problems, to join each other in fixing them. We want the churches to step in and give us shelter and give us a temporary place, and then we want the companies to pitch in. You know, like there's some companies shipping free water from around the country, and there are churches around this country that are putting together groups of people that are going to go down there over time, not once, but over time, to go down there and help these people build and repair. And that's how Republicans see the world. Democrats see the world as they are victims and they need the government to come in there and do everything. You know, remember when Katrina hit and FEMA sent down those trailers, and they complained about the trailers. They complained about a trailer. I never got over that. They gave you a place to stay for an amount of time, and all you did was complain about the free place to stay. You could have slept under the stars, you know, on the wet, soggy ground. But yet they complained about a free place to live. When they opened up during Katrina, when they opened up that football stadium, and they housed those people in there for a short period of time, when they left, they completely destroyed the interior of that. Unbelievable, because they felt entitled. This is ours. It's owed to us. We'll do with it what we want. They destroyed it. That's the difference in the way Republicans and Democrats see the world. Democrats want the government to do everything for them, and they want to blame the government for everything. Republicans want the government to go away. Just do the essentials and get out of the way, get out of our lives, and let us take care of stuff. That's what Republicans are, and that's what Americans are. Socialists are the other ones. That's the difference. The only thing that the press was able to try to make a case against Trump was they said he was compassionless. And they tried that label on him. In 2 weeks ago, there was an issue in Charlottesville, and they tried to say the same thing about that. You know, because they say he's not warm and fuzzy like Obama was, or even like W was. Here's what I say. You know, I didn't elect the teddy bear. If I wanted warm and fuzzy, I would have voted for a warm and fuzzy guy or girl. I voted for a leader. I voted for a table turner. I voted for a butt kicker. I want stuff done. I want a leader. I want a take charge kind of guy. And I rarely meet these kind of guys who are warm and fuzzy. When you compare the amount of things that Trump has managed to get done, it's amazing. Okay, so he's not a warm, fuzzy guy. I don't care about that. I do care that he got down there and did everything the federal government should do to take care of its people and made sure that everything was in line, and spent an amazing amount of time and detail to make sure that every little detail was taken care of. And for an inexperienced politician to do that, amazing. That is amazing. And he's getting no kudos for that. I don't care that he's not warm and fuzzy. I care that he got the job done. And that's awesome. Now, the next issue I want to talk about is, and I said this in the introduction, we have an upcoming schedule for Congress, and they've got a lot to get done. And I believe that the Trump administration uh, is either going to rise and fall on this schedule. Now, here's the thing: tax reform. Um, they are going to start this upcoming week. He has got to get tax reform through. Just the economic numbers of the United States right now are incredible. When Trump came into office, he said he would have GDP at 3%, and they said that was impossible. It was running around 1% when he came into office. It hit 3%, and he hasn't even got tax reform done yet. He's doing an outstanding job. It hit 3%. And it'll go higher when they get this done. If he does not get tax reform done, I predict right now that that GDP will drop back down to 2 or below, simply because right now businesses are making decisions based on tax reform. People are bringing jobs back to this country based on tax reform. Inflation is non-existent because businesses are making decisions based on tax reform happening. That's got to happen. Trump has got to get that through. And I don't really care what he has to do. If he needs to go on a national tour, if he needs to get whatever it is he has to do, he's got to get that done this time. No blaming it on Mitch McConnell. No blaming it on the liberal wing. No blaming it on the conservatives. Get tax reform done, period. And that ought to be doable. But that starts this next week, and that's got to be done by, I believe, November. The debt ceiling is coming. Trump, and I covered this last week, Trump said that he would shut the government down and not pass anything if he doesn't get money in the budget for his wall. That's going to have to happen. And I believe the federal budget is up by the end of September. So the end of this month is the end of the federal budgeting. But they're going to need to raise the debt ceiling here pretty quick. The budget needs to be done by the end of September. And I hope he does shut down the government. And once again, I'm going to put in my plug. Now, the way that it works, and the press is not going to tell you this. When they say the government shuts down, what they meant is all of the non-essential government offices close. To which I say, cool. If it's not essential, why is it even there? Now, when it says not essential, the things that it is open is all of the things that are necessary to protect our country. The military, the CIA, FBI, all of those things for national security, they all stay open and life is normal. But the non-essential offices and bureaucrats are shut down. To which I say, when that happens, let's go through and just shut the offices down. The Department of Education is not necessary. Why do we have a Department of Education? The Department of Energy is not necessary. Why do we have that? I think when we shut it down this time, let's fire them all. That'll empty the swamp pretty darn quick, because that's where those embedded bureaucrats are at. They're the ones that are not getting things done. EPA, education, energy, those are all non-essential. Those all need to go away. And then we can if we got rid of those offices alone, that would clean out the swamp. Now let's go talk about justice. And there you're going to have your hands full. But at least we'll get a major jump on the swamp. Now, at this point in Obama's administration, he had almost 500 of his appointees approved and in office for his administration. Trump has 50. 50. This falls squarely on the shoulders of Mitch McConnell, the Senate leader. This guy is a swamp rat. This guy belongs to the deep state. This guy needs to be gone. And I'm not smart enough to know how to do that, but I know we got rid of Boehner in the House. We need to do the same thing and get rid of this guy in the Senate. Every opportunity he has had, he has hurt Trump. The easy way to get this done is to do exactly what the Democrats did. Let's end cloture, make it a 51 vote, up or down, and let's just start bringing them. No pussyfooting around with the 24-hour per nominee. That'll cost another 2 years to get them done. In cloture, and let's just bring this an up or down. Same with the judicial nominees. Right after Trump came into office, I know that he submitted a list of, I believe it was 10 federal judgeships. Nothing's been done. Now, I understand that it takes time to vet, but these guys are federal judges. If it takes you 6 months to vet a federal judge, then what you're saying is you have no confidence in the vetting that was done before to get him there. Let's speed this up, get the right amount of resources on this, and end cloture and end the 24-hour rule of talking or voting after it's mentioned. Get rid of all of that and bring them up to a vote, up or down. There is no reason in the world we cannot get 300 of these voted on in one day. No reason. This falls squarely in the lap of Mitch McConnell. And that needs to be done. In order for Trump to lead a government and to be able to do the things he needs to do, he needs to have people in there. I mean, these are major positions. He can't go drain the swamp because he doesn't have people to go in there and do it. Now, the last issue I want to talk about, and I'm going to try to talk about this every week until the election, is the election, the special election that is happening down in Alabama for the Senate seat vacated by Jeff Sessions. Now, they had a runoff, and the way they do it down there is if nobody gets 50%, the top 2 vote getters have a runoff, and that runoff is coming the middle to end part of September. I don't remember the exact date. Now, this is a very interesting and convoluted story. So, when Jeff Sessions went into the Trump administration, there's a Democratic governor in that state. And a guy by the name of Strange was head of a committee, and they were investigating the governor. They found him guilty of corruption, and they were in the process of impeaching him. Then Sessions leaves, and guess what happens? The governor appoints Strange to the Senate seat, and all of the charges disappeared, all of the issues with him disappeared, and everybody's happy. Now, what that means is the governor is corrupt and Strange is corrupt. Now, they had the runoff, and there's 2 people that are running for election, Strange and Judge Roy Moore. Now, we know about Strange, I just told you. Let me tell you about Judge Roy Moore. This guy was a federal judge in Louisiana. And the district judges told him to remove the 10 Commandments from his courthouse. And Moore told him, no, I'm not doing that. That's illegal. So they fired him. They removed him from his seat. And you know, again, here's a difference between Democrats and Republicans. And I've said this for years. Republicans win because of values and ideas. They are willing to live and die by their moral code. And this Judge Roy Moore is no exception. It would have been very easy for him to have him moved and put someplace else, public and keep his judgeship. But he said, you know what? No, that's not right. It's wrong. It's illegal, and I'm not doing it. If it costs me my job, it costs me my job. It cost him his job. And now he's running for a Senate seat where he could come in and help Trump. Now, as soon as I heard the story, I was, of course, on board with Judge Roy Moore. But I heard him in an interview. He's a smart guy. He is definitely a conservative, and he will definitely jump on board with Trump. And that's what we need. So those of you that live in Alabama, vote for Judge Roy Moore. Now, the last, when you look at all the polls that's going on, and we're a couple of weeks out from the election, Judge Roy Moore is up anywhere from 6 to 15 points. So keep it up, Alabamans. And for those of you not in Alabama, if you know anybody down there, let's motivate them. The Democrats will, the establishment wants Sessions in there. The Democrats that vote will vote for Strange. So we've got to treat this like a major election, and it is. Some of the Trump agenda could hinge on one vote. We lost overturning Obamacare by one vote. So we need to get Strange out of there and get Moore in there. Now, now having told you the story on both sides, here's some interesting stuff. So Trump endorsed Strange. I find that very strange. Why did Trump do that? And so did Mitch McConnell, by the way. Now, you have to ask yourself, why did Trump do that? And Trump publicly has no love loss for Mitch McConnell. But why did he go down there and endorse Mitch's boy? It's pretty obvious to me. It sounds like there was a backroom deal made between Trump and Mitch McConnell. I'll go down there and vote for your boy, and I'll publicly endorse him, but I want you to make sure that you do whatever it is you need to do to get tax reform through the House and Senate. That's what it looks like. That's what it smells like. That's the only thing that makes sense. Because I know that Mitch McConnell is a swamp rat. I know that Strange is a swamp rat. I know that Strange is corrupt. I know that Strange is not going to back Trump. So you got to ask yourself, why did Trump go down there and endorse him? Because Trump knows that too. I think Trump was betting against that, but was fulfilling a promise. Now, remember when he did his rally out in Arizona, he came right out and said he wanted Flake gone. He has not gone down to Alabama and held a rally and said he wants Strange in. He hasn't done that. All he did was publicly endorse. I think that's significant. I don't think we got to worry about it. I think Trump really does want Judge Moore in there. I think there was a deal made. I think there's games going on here, and I think Trump is going to end up getting the last laugh here, and Mitch McConnell is going to be standing around with egg on his face. Because I don't know, but I'm 90% sure. No, I take that back. I do know, because I heard Judge Roy Moore interview on the Laura Ingraham show. Outstanding interview, by the way. And he said that the establishment, and he did use the term establishment, the establishment had brought in everything they could muster. The Karl Rove's on board, W's on board, the RNC is on board, and they have shipped down, I think he said somewhere between $12 and $15 million to get this election for Strange and to defeat Judge Roy Moore. And the interesting thing is, all of that money, all of that muscle, all of that political capital is right now being wasted because Moore is beating him in some polls by double digits. But we can't grow complacent. The establishment is very good at protecting their swamp rats. And these guys are swamp rats. So we need to stay vigilant. I hope the Tea Party is mobilizing forces down there to get out the vote. I hope they're spending the money that they need to spend. They're watching closely on the polling down there so that they can do, the Tea Party is going to have to carry this because the establishment is not going to help. The establishment is anti-Moore and pro-Strange. So we need to, as a groundswell, we need to support Judge Roy Moore, and he needs to win. I think Mitch McConnell is being played by Trump. Now, in the interview that he was talking about with Laura Ingraham, she asked him about cloture. And now remember, this guy is a judge, not just an attorney, he's a judge. And he said that the 60-vote rule in the Senate is unconstitutional. Now, here's something I did not know. I did not know that cloture and the 60-vote rule was not in the Constitution. It's not. It's a rule devised by the Senate. And my guess is it was devised by Democrats. Because I remember when they used it the most was when Ted Kennedy was in office on the Judiciary Committee. They used that all the time. So now, having known that, having found that out, I believe it is unconstitutional. I think it needs to be exactly like what I said. 51 votes up or down, no games, nothing. Now, I want you to remember, Strange, the governor, Mitch McConnell are all swamp rats, all of them. We've got to get rid of them all. And we can start by electing Judge Roy Moore. If Judge Roy Moore wins and Strange is defeated, that is actually a 2-vote swing towards Trump because Strange was anti-Trump. So we're going to get rid of that vote. That's 1 vote down. And then we're going to add a vote for Trump. So it's a 2-vote swing in one election. Now, history is on our side on this, okay? And here's why. Since the election, there have been, since the presidential election, there have been 7 elections between Democrats and Republicans. And in every instance, the Republicans won. And in every instance, the Democrats lost and lost badly. This one is 2 Republicans. So this is not going to be a battle between Democrat and Republican. This is going to be a fight between establishment and Tea Party. And that's the key part. If you want to get rid of the swamp rats, if you want to drain the swamp, if you want to get rid of corruption, we need to vote for Judge Roy Moore because Strange represents the establishment, crookedness, everything that we are trying to get rid of. Strange represents that. So Judge Roy Moore is a conservative Republican, Tea Party Republican. We need him in the Senate. That alone, this 1 vote alone, will guarantee that part of Trump's agenda will make it through the Senate. This is a critical vote. So, okay, so now we're going to go to the part of the show that I like to call, or I'm going to start calling, I think, I haven't decided on this firmly, but current events. And this is where we're going to go through the paper, magazines, articles of the day, and we're just going to find 2, 3, 4 articles that we can chronicle and talk about. And sometimes there'll be follow-up to stories we've talked about before. Sometimes there'll be new stories. And sometimes there'll be new information on stories that I wanted to bring up. Some I'll talk a little bit, some I'll talk a lot. We'll just see. Now, the first one from this week was from the op-ed page, "The Danger of a Jihadist Pakistan." Now, we touched on this earlier when I said the problem with Pakistan is twofold. Number one, they're harboring terrorists going in and out of Afghanistan, where our boys are over there fighting and dying, and they're harboring the people that are doing it. They are an Islamic country for sure. Now, the danger, what he's saying here, is the danger of a jihadi Pakistan, which means radicals get in there and take it over. And this article goes through and says the military has already been radicalized. Most of the government has already been radicalized. Right now, we have a pro-American in there as president. The country's ousted prime minister, Nawaz Sharif, was at least neutral towards the United States. Right now, they are running an election, and the guy that looks like he's going to win is anti-American. Now, if he wins, and he's Muslim, we're going to have a serious problem in Pakistan, because not just because of the terrorists going back and forth, but because they also are a nuclear power. If they have nukes, if they are Muslim, and if they believe in jihad, which all of those things are very, very possible, all of a sudden, all of the terrorists around the world will have access to nuclear. That is a scary, scary thought. And unfortunately, that is a very real possibility. I want to read, there was a lot of stuff I was going to talk about in here, but I think I'm going to save that. But here's the ending paragraph. It says, "Starting now in Afghanistan and Pakistan, China should be told its bona fides as a state engaging in peaceful rise are on the line. If real proof of that conceit does not emerge, Washington will be entitled to draw appropriate conclusions." China's not going to do that. We talked about that earlier in one of the stories we were talking about. China gave them the technology to be a nuclear power to offset the United States' power and influence in the area. So they're not going to do anything. And that's why it's pretty obvious that this guy's going to win. So the United States better come up with an answer to that. And I don't know what the answer is. Maybe give all of our friends nuclear around the world. Now, the next article is also from the op-ed page, called "Steve Bannon's Revenge." Now, Bannon got resigned or got fired, depending on how you want to look at it, from the Trump administration. He was a right-wing conservative Republican. And after his firing, or whatever, now Trump is surrounded by Democrats. The only Republican left is Kathy Lee. So on his way out, Bannon held an interview and said some unkind things about the Democratic Party and his view of the elections. And he goes through and he talks about one of his famous things was, as long as the Democrats keep talking about identity politics. Now, identity politics means racism. And that's all that they have been talking about. The press is just beating that, trying to make that label stick to the conservatives, the Republicans, and specifically Trump. And that's all they're talking about. If you ask any Democrat in the world what their party stands for right now, nobody knows except that they hate Trump. And that seems to be all that they care about. And so he goes through and he's talking, he says he found some unwitting people that support him, like Kasich. And he says also, ditto for Bernie Sanders. Like Mr. Bannon, Mr. Sanders appreciates that identity politics is a loser for the Democrats. He says the Democratic Party won't stop losing elections until it changes direction and focuses on the economic agenda that speaks to American working families and the young. Bernie is right. And that's why we won the election. Because the Democrats are so into labeling and identity politics. Remember Hillary's deplorables? Remember that speech? Homophobes, xenophobes, uh, all deplorable. She called half of the United States deplorables. That's identity politics. And that's all they've been doing since they've been in office. Now, here's what this guy ends up saying. He says, is any of that true? Maybe, but it won't be easy to find the good Democratic candidates necessary to gain the 24 seats the party needs in the House. As for the Senate, 10 Democrats are up for re-election in states that went for Mr. Trump. That's good news for us. Against only one Republican in a state carried by Hillary Clinton. That's really good news for us. Now, again, I said it about the earlier election, and I'm going to keep saying it. These 10 seats, specifically, the Tea Party needs to go in and find Tea Party conservatives. Don't just put a Republican in there. Don't put an established Republican in there just because you think you can win. The American people want change. They will vote for a conservative Republican Tea Party candidate, but we've got to put one up. The Tea Party needs to be working right now, strenuously, looking for conservatives to go into at least these 10 states and win in the primary. The battle will be won or lost in the primaries in these states, not the general election. The Republican will win in most of these general elections because Trump's already carried them. The people in the states have already said they want Trump in there. So whoever the Republican is probably going to win or come very, very close. So we got to make sure that it's not just an establishment Republican. We have to make sure that it's a Tea Party candidate. And if that happens, that will be Steve Bannon's revenge. Now, on a story that I want to follow up on from before, there was, we had been talking about Venezuela, and I had done a program trying to appeal to the millennials and the bad parts of socialism, because most millennials haven't seen that. So I went through and I did that, and I said at that time that if the United States was looking at, but had not decided to issue sanctions on Venezuela, I said if that happens, if they do that, that government will be toppled very quickly. It happened not to the country, but to the individuals in the leadership in the government, which means they did all of that corruption. They're going to get no money. They put sanctions on it. They did it this week, and that is coming. So be looking for news this week talking about the ouster of President Maduro with his leaders in Caracas. And also the lady that is doing the investigation on corruption on Maduro, if she makes it out alive, I would not be surprised to see Maduro arrested and in jail as he leaves the government. Well, that ends the current events. That is how we are going to chronicle this week in politics.